issue that I want to bring up in this discussion would be the removal of statues. I know this may not seem like such a big issue right now, but I think in the past, like especially over the summer, it was a really big deal, especially in Virginia. It was a very big deal in Richmond. There was a removal of the Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond. Sorry, I said Richmond already. And then there was, in New York, there was a statue removed of Teddy Roosevelt. Also, a statue removed of Thomas Jefferson. So there's just been, and then also like Congress had passed a bill or legislation saying that Confederate monuments will no longer be like allowed on Capitol grounds or something like that. I don't know exactly how they worded it. So there was removal of a lot of Confederate monuments and statues in like the Capitol buildings and different government buildings in DC. Oh, sorry. So, I guess I just wanted to talk about or bring in discussion this issue of statue removal, whether that be with Confederate leaders, or I guess in the case of like Teddy Roosevelt, he wasn't a Confederate leader, but the statue was removed for the reasoning of being like racist, because there was like a Native American and an African American beside him, and they also said it was just racist because of like he was like on a horse. Anyways, I wish I could have inserted a picture here, but yeah, the argument was that it was giving off the vibe of a colonizer, and they didn't want it there anymore. So I would like to bring to this discussion people on both sides, and then also people in the middle. So people who are for taking down monuments and statues because of the history behind them, or people not for taking down statues or monuments because of the history behind them. And I think this could be held maybe in like a town hall setting, and a facilitator could be, or let's go back to the town hall setting. And also, if we're talking about, I think maybe we could talk about specifically in this dialogue Confederate statues. Maybe that would be easier to hone in on. So I think if we were going to talk about Confederate statues, maybe having it in a state that was not necessarily a part of the Civil War, like not necessarily in the North or the South, and kind of having someone without any ties to like the Civil War history, like kind of not history, but like somebody who wasn't like who didn't live in a state that was from like the Union or the Confederacy, and that could be helpful, like maybe a Midwest state like Nebraska or something. Just thinking like it could be helpful to like not have like a bias in that sense. And I feel like, or even like Iowa, I feel like maybe like a Midwest state could be helpful, or like Kansas or something, that's where the dialogue could be held, or the facilitator could be from. And that way, they kind of have like less ties. Um, and so I would pick this because I think this kind of goes back to a lot of issues that we're having on both sides, like in many aspects. Politically, I say, like, on one side, the people who don't want to remove the Confederate statues are saying, like, well, this is kind of erasing history. Maybe these people weren't very good, but they still contributed a fair amount to, like, the South's history, and we want to preserve our history and not erase it. Let's keep it here. They've been here for so long, so let's keep the history here, and not spend tax money to take it down. They're, those are the reasonings on that end. And on the other end, people are saying, well, these statues represent some time in United States history or people that were racist, slave owners, and kind of make the rest of us uncomfortable and feel unsafe in spaces. And I think it's important for both. It would be important to see both sides and have a dialogue. To have a dialogue, because I think this gets to the root of a lot of other issues. Like, this goes back to, like, political issues. I guess, like, the left and right typically would fall, like, the right would fall for, not removing the statues, and the left would fall for removing the statues. So I think it's, like, this intense divide that we have, and I think the statue would just be like a case study of the divide that we have in America right now. And I think that the dialogue could be useful in understanding through a specific like a specific example, why people feel so connected to their ideas and principles and their point of view. I know necessarily statues might not do that completely, but I think through the dialogue it would help people understand a little bit more of, like, why, like, if somebody who wanted to keep the statues listened and heard, after an icebreaker, and people became more relaxed and heard, like, a humanized version face to face of why someone really felt like Robert E. Lee wasn't a good example of a leader that should be, like, idealized. And maybe even bringing up commonalities of, like, on the right, people are usually, like, pro-America, very democracy, and so, like, maybe bringing up, we shouldn't idealize people who left the Union. So I think maybe that could help. And then on the other side, just for the people who want to remove the statues, they could maybe learn from the people that do want to remove the statues of why they feel so connected and why this history is so important to them, and why they feel that removing the history could maybe just have history repeating itself. So maybe they could come to, like, a compromise at the end of this with not remove deciding on what to do with the statues, but mainly, like, having the history not be repeating itself, and having the history still be there. Maybe that could be helpful. Um, and let me see if I think I would invite, really quickly, sorry, I went over. I would invite people, maybe from the really big um, towns that have close connections to um, the Civil War. Like, I know the town near me. It's called Lexington, Virginia. It's where Robert E. Lee was born, and he is a lot of Confederate soldiers are buried here. So maybe like places, smaller places, and even like Richmond, places that have a strong tie to the Confederacy, um, and are historic in like in that way, and then also places that are have a strong tie to the Union, and then also places that are just kind of newer cities that are urbanized. I mean, obviously, I think they're going to be urbanized in both ways, but having historical context would be helpful because of the history argument that I think some people would be saying. So I think this issue really just, again, falls back on a lot of issues that we're having today as a case study, like, of why, of, like, how Americans are so divided, but maybe could come to a common ground on, like, a really, seems like a simple issue, but it actually just makes people more angry. Like, um, people maybe haven't thought so much about statues, but now it's become like in the headlines. So why is it that now removing of statues is like such an important thing, and what has happened to make that important now, and how can we further continue that dialogue? So yeah, thanks.